All right, so these are the patch 9.21 notes. This is the final patch until the season 2 comes out, right? I think the Rise of the Elements is the patch after this. So these should
Yep.
be like the last major changes that we see to the champs and the builds that we know. Um, but I think the first real big one, I think that I want to start with is definitely the player damage because this is going to affect, um, from my perspective, like the whole meta of econing to level 8 as fast as you can. So basically, what's happening, and I don't want to like read just through these stats. I mean, obviously you can see them on the screen, but what's happening is instead of the champs doing more damage per level, the base damage is increased by a ton. So like if you're just losing a lot of games early or mid game, you're going to be out of the game before you can even get to late game and get to level 8, which changes everything in my opinion because everybody's rushing that level 8 like right after wolves, and you just really can't do it anymore unless you spend some gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this change was necessary because right now, like you can basically there's a lot of times where you can just like ignore the earlier mid game and just econ and like be the first one to level 8 and just roll and get, all the tier 4 and 5 units. And I think it's good that it's kind of going to slow it's going to not slow everything down. It's going to speed things up because you can't just, you know what I mean, you can't just sit back and wait for a high level to roll for the higher units. You're going to your HP is going to be gone, a lot quicker cuz it seems to me like what the early damage is like basically doubled.
Yeah, it's going to
For
be
the
a
most
lot.
part.
Instead of losing like 4 or 5 on the first round, you can lose like 10 if you're really getting shit on. So like that's going to be a big deal. And I think it's good for the meta because the meta right now, it just feels kind of silly. Like you can just kind of ignore the game and just econ for the most part. And like if you get decent units, like even better. But to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense for every single player in the lobby to get tier 4, tier 5 units to 2 or 3 stars. It just, you know what I mean? Like if you last till the early game and you're in last, but you econ well, you can magically have like two legendaries, like two 5 tier units, 2 starred, and like 3 4 tier units, 2 starred. Which you know what I mean? That just seems like it's against like the spirit of the game to just have all these super powerful units for every single player in the lobby. I feel like the powerful units should come later when there's less people in the lobby and the people survive to make it to that point. That's kind of where I sit with it. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy about
Yeah, I kind of like that. Personally, I like playing the slow game and piling up. It's like feels really good. I think a lot of people would probably agree with having those like really strong units at the end of the game and it being so accessible to everybody. But you are right. It is. I think overall just bad for like a competitive community just to get essentially it just didn't matter for the first what 3 rounds to wolves there and then who cares. But I think these changes here, the early game probably will be a little bit more difficult, but I think the mid game is where things are going to really hurt. Like bad, if you had a bad early game, usually you can take a few losses, but I know in so many games right now, I'm having like a really weak mid game team, and you'll just be knocked out before you get anywhere close to putting something together.
Yeah, I feel like it's been important to have that mid game transition team somewhat, like whether you can get a few brawlers just to get you through the mid game, or like I see a lot of people just picking up elementalists just to get them through the mid game, and then just like ditch them all by late game. But I feel like now if you're not finding those synergies, like if you're rolling and you're not finding those synergies, you're just done. Like you will
Mm-hmm.
not make it to late game. Like you will not have a chance to ramp up and like find that Jinx or find that Swain or find that Kale. It's just not gonna happen. So I don't know. I feel like it's going to affect like the overall builds, but it's also going to affect like people prioritizing like Kennen and Liss and probably Zed and just like a Lucian carry even more so than they already do.
it. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I just I think it'll just add a little bit more variety because like right now there's no there's like very, very few people that are rolling early. Like everybody's just econing, and like it just seems kind of, you know what I mean? It just seems kind of
It's
stale. Like
it
everybody's
is
doing the same
stale.
thing.
It's been like 3 weeks
think
of it, and it's
yeah.
stale. Yeah.
I think once it changes, there'll be a little bit more variety of like when to roll and like how to roll instead of just literally basically always fucking econing as much as possible. Which I don't know. To me, I think that's a good thing. I think now it's just like you like do not get punished at all. You can have a pretty bad team and still make it to pretty late in the game and just econ and then roll for the late champs before everybody else, which I don't know, it just seems
Yeah, I like it too. I think it's more exciting, but it's probably more skill intensive right now, like with this patch too, with this upcoming patch. But the only thing that I'm worried about is I think it prioritizes the RNG a little bit more, right? It's like it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
force you to roll more because you need to get stronger champs early and you need synergies early. And if you're not getting them, I mean, there's only so much you can do with the randomness, right? Like you can only look to see what people are building so much, especially in the early game because it changes so much. If you're not finding those guys, you're kind of just done.
well, I mean, you could say the same thing for like right now. Like if you don't find your Draven 2 if you're running Imperials, or you don't find your Kaisa 2 for your, you know what I mean? If you don't find your carry now, like you're still screwed. I don't think that
Yeah, I guess it
changes
just
quite
extends
a
Yeah,
it.
bit
I guess it
as
just extends it further. Yeah, with the
but
current patch. I mean,
but you get so much more. You know, the higher percent chance later into the game. You have obviously most people are econing. The amount of rolls you get by the end of the game is just ridiculous. Where you get to roll like 20, 30 times to
yep.
get some. You're gonna get something. I mean, in that early to mid game when you really can't. At least right now, it doesn't feel like you can afford to roll too often. You just kind of hemorrhage enough gold to make econ, like getting that econ, the 50 gold with the interest, almost impossible if you're rolling early. And anybody I see hyper rolling, obviously I think the game's in a bad state right now. Anybody that I see hyper roll early, they get smoked by the end. Like they might have a couple like 3-star tier 1 units, but
Yeah, you
they're
need
short a guy or two and they get rolled on.
you need to get like a couple 3-star units and have like the perfect items for them. You need that
Yeah.
Darius with Warmogs, uh, Thornmail, and Dragonclaw, and just let him go. And that's pretty hard to do.
Hmm. Well, that's the kind of, well, I don't know if you want to get into this right now, but if you're going to make that kind of a change to the player damage, and you were talking about like that RNG element, it's going to be a lot stronger. I think you need to take some of the RNG elements out of, other aspects of the game where I think like maybe the biggest one would be like items and item distribution. And, when it would be nice to know, like when you fight minions, which waves you get items on, and like everybody gets the same amount of items, that kind of thing. So you're not like, not only are you not rolling well, but you got like a bunch of gold and didn't get any items, like from those waves of the minions. Like you just feel it, the game might feel really really bad in certain really unlucky scenarios.
yeah, I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but I think the change is for the best. I think right now there's just not everything's pretty stale. It's just everybody sits and waits and econs. It's basically a race to 8. But
Yeah,
then, because you want to race to 8, because if you don't race to 8, and then somebody wants to do Knights Imperials and they beat you at 8 and they roll before you, you're just screwed. So
Mm-hmm.
yep.
I think there's always going to be like unlucky moments and like bad RNG. It's just part of the game, and I don't think it's going to matter from patch to from this patch to last patch. You're still going to have the same issues. Sometimes it's just going to be whether it's later in the game or earlier in the game.
It's gonna be a weird patch because it's gonna really, really shift the meta and change how you play, like very drastically. And then as soon as this patch is done and you're just getting used to it, it's gonna go right into Rise of the Elements. Like you're just gonna start to figure out how to play this patch and like who to prioritize and what comps to build, and it's gonna be like, oh, okay, well we're adding in like 30 new champs, so sorry about it. Um,
Oh,
what?
I
Good.
think it is good to note though that whatever set 2 Rise of the Elements comes out, there is no ranked for 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks of just playing normals to like learn the champs and the comps and everything,
Right.
which I think probably and for them, to if there's any major bugs or any weird things that they can take care of them. So I think that's a good play by them overall.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Let's look at these traits here. So these are also pretty impactful. Not as impactful, I don't think, as that overall player damage switch, but these are going to be like there's a lot of like big nerfs, and I think the Rangers got a big buff. But first, the Guardian bonus armor is dropping from 45 to 40.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty fair because Guardian is really strong right now, especially if you have Panth and you get the Dragon buff. So, I mean, let's be honest, like the Dragon Knights Guardian comp right now is pretty fucking strong if you can get there.
Yeah, you know
So
it's
I think
strong when you're seeing people building like Leona, Pantheon, Braum, Leona, Aurelion Soul. Like it's probably and getting like third place with it. It's probably not okay.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't have been so bad if they wouldn't have made Pantheon a dragon too. I mean, you kind of throw that whole like side build out the window because you get that Guardian and the dragon. Just seems a little bit OP, even compared to like other, higher tier champions. There's some really weird mixes, and he literally probably has the best mix, I would say.
Yeah, I think Panth just has like too many strong synergies, and his ult's very strong too. So I think that's a fair nerf, and it doesn't even seem like it's that big of a nerf. I feel like it probably could have been a little bit bigger, maybe.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I like it being nerfed just because Guardians being so strong, and really the only Guardians that you were seeing late game were Leo and Panth, and there's just not that many of them to go around. So like, if a lot of the Leonas were gone and a couple Panths were out of the pool, you just weren't going to get them. And you really, if they were that strong, you just can't really win.
No, you can't beat that comp with the like Dave said, that Dragon Guardian thing is just
Yeah, if you get good
insane.
items and you get and you like 2-star your Panth and 2-star your Acel, and you have the right items, it's pretty fucking hard to lose. It's just really good.
Yep. The next big change is the Hextech item disable duration, so that's going to go down from 7 seconds to 5 seconds. I found this one a little bit weird.
I think it's fair. It's because I mean it does feel bad whenever it just like Hextech lands on your carry and you're pretty much useless for 7 seconds and can literally like just lose you a round or a game. I think 5 seconds is probably a little more of a fair duration.
Yeah, I just feel that people weren't building it already. The only time you're seeing Hextech right now is when you're going up against the Brawlers and you're going with Vi and then Jinx. So it's just kind of their late game because that comp is just strong. But no one's like speccing into Hextech. And I mean,
I see
not
a
that
lot
I
of
have seen.
I've seen a decent amount of Hextech, especially like because there's a lot of games now where people like do level to 9, and they'll throw in a Hextech bonus with the extra.
Oh, they'll just grab a Jace or a Camille or something.
Yeah, or a Vi or whatever, and just throw it in with their Jinx and get the buff. And I think it's still reasonably relevant. And there's a lot of people that build fucking brawlers.
Yeah,
it's S tier, and I mean it's pretty.
Everywhere.
It's pretty. I brawlers with Jinx and Lucian. I've seen. There's usually like at least 2 or 3 people in every single game building that. So I'm okay with it getting nerfed. It seems 5 seconds seems a little more fair than 7, especially because, like I said, random.
Yep.
It just randomly lands on a unit. If it like lands on your carry or whatever, you can literally just lose a game because of one like dice roll, which I don't know. Seems a little
it's not
too
my
RNG
favorite.
for me.
I'm okay with the RNG elements that are in TFT, but the Hextech does feel the worst.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Randomness is good to some extent, but there's certain things being random that aren't fun, and I would say it's not like I mean it's you can play around Hextech. Only one unit gets Hextech, which I understand that, but it still just kind of fucking sucks whenever like your strongest guy just gets like Hextech and then he gets fucking Phantom too, and then he just falls over and you just lose the game. Like it's not you know what I mean?
I can't tell you how many times my carry with GA gets Hextech and dies before he gets to before the item comes back. Especially Kennen. I mean, it's like automatic.
Right. There's good randomness and there's bad randomness, and that kind of randomness is bad. You know what I mean? It's not like your guy I don't know. It's just like too fucking random, and it literally just impacts the whole game. Like you're just screwed. And then you can end up losing. Like if that happens to your carry, you can end up losing the game, and they have like 7 units left, and you take like fucking 30 HP of damage, and then you just
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm good with that nerf. That makes sense to me.
I don't like Hex Tech that much. I feel like it's the only one. I mean, you can play around it by spreading out, but it's like not something you can predict. It's not like playing against assassins where you can kind of like insulate, your carry or something like that, or playing against like sorcerers or something. You souls in the game, you want to spread or like move people accordingly, that kind of thing. And Hex Tech is just like a little too random for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that it's probably gonna go away, and I'll
No, it is going away.
and I'll be really happy that it is. Yeah.
Yeah, with the elements, like pretty much
Yeah, I think they're all changing.
most of the current origins or whatever are no longer
Yeah.
a thing. There's a couple that stayed, but most of them are gone. It's all new stuff,
Yeah.
which
I'm actually
I
really
welcome
excited.
that.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
This next change is actually pretty small. Night damage blocked is going from 1535/60 to 1530/60. So the mid game's getting a very, very small nerf.
That's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so sick of seeing knights as it is. Anything to like get less knights.
Yeah, I mean, knights are super strong right now. Like 4 knights is like a very common thing for people to run mid game and even into the late game. So I mean, it's a good tweak. It knocks it down a little bit. It might. I mean, it's still strong, but it's a little bit weaker. But I think it's fair because, like I said, 4 knights you see very frequently. There's usually
Yep.
half the lobby is running 4 knights at some point in the game. So
Yeah, if I see one more Mordekaiser, I'll fucking puke. This next one I'm really excited about, actually. So Ranger's bonus attack speed is going from 25% and 70% to 40% and 70%. So a huge, huge buff early game and mid game. And I love Rangers. I love Ash, and I think Kaisa is my favorite unit in the game.
yeah,
with Kaisa.
I'm curious to see how good it actually ends up being because I think with the player damage increase that it's going to be a little bit harder to get those 5-cost units at the end of the game. So you might not see as many Kaisas, but like even like Kaisa Varus, I mean it could be interesting to see what it does to those characters.
Mm-hmm. I think Rangers is still too weak. Is it? It's still the like chance to proc every 3 seconds, right?
I don't think that has changed. Yeah.
So, which is by far the worst. I don't know, why is that even a thing? Why can't they just get a flat attack speed like wild and stuff? Like
Yeah, I mean, Rangers right now are obviously pretty garbage. Like I don't think anybody really runs them.
Maybe they play tested it and it's just too strong if it's automatic. I don't know.
But I mean, at the end of the day, like with set 2, none of this shit even really matters. So
That's true. Yeah, I guess this conversation. Yeah, you can just turn this off. Okay, this last one, I was actually looking at this, and this doesn't really do much for me. So, sorcerer ability power is going up. It's 40%, 100%, 175% at the 9 rank, and then it's going from 40%, 120% to 200%. So the mid tier's going up from 100 to 120. I've been trying to build Sorks lately. I'll do like a Sork Elemental or like a Sork with like a Void or a Brawler. And I've gotten to 6. And it gets you like through the mid game very, very easily. But eventually as you hit late game, 6 Sorks, they just don't have enough beef. You just can't put a front line in if you have 6 Sorks. And like the damage doesn't help because nobody gets a chance to cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just usually when you see Sorks, you only see 3 anyway. So I mean, like you're never getting 9 Sorks. Like it's just not going to happen. The probability of that is like very, very small because you need to have 3 fucking rods and 3 fucking spats. So like, there's probably no way it's going to happen.
Yep.
And then 6,
just level 9 to boot. You have to
yeah,
lose
and 6. I don't know. When you see Sorks, you usually see 3. So I don't see it being that big of a change, but
seems kind of memey. I don't even know why they bothered to do it.
It does seem a little memey. So some specific champion changes. So Lyssandra's starting total mana is going from 0.85 to 0.95. So a really, really small nerf for her. Actually, why don't we just go through? I'm gonna just go through all these. I think it's probably easier, and then we can just
Mm-hmm.
talk about them. Vera's attack damage going from 50 to 60, so he's getting a buff. Brand's getting 2 changes. Pyroclasm bounce range 2 hexes to 3 hexes, and then the missile speed from slower to faster, whatever that means. Cho'Gath spell damage is going from 175, 350, 525 to 200, 400, 600. So he's getting a buff across all tiers, which is nuts because he's pretty strong already. And then Draven's getting a nerf, attack damage down from 70 to 65, and Panth is getting a pretty big nerf as well, armor down from 80 to 70.
Yeah, I think the list nerf is pretty fair because her alt charges super fast, and it's really fucking strong in, it's really strong in like the mid game. Like it just she can like kill everything, especially if you have a GA on her. She's really strong. So I mean that change makes sense to me. I think, and with like the player damage increase too, I think it makes sense to make her a little less powerful.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Through the mid game.
I agree.
I like to see Varus get a little love here. He felt really, really bad. But I mean, he really isn't about his auto attack damage, so I don't know. Maybe with the Ranger buff, maybe he'll get to the, launching his arrow a little faster.
Yeah, it's a pretty good attack damage buff, and I think if you build him into a Sork too and like speed up his mana generation, whether it be with TF or Demon or something like that, he starts spamming that alt and it really can shred. Mm-hmm. So I think he's going to be pretty strong with Sorks and Demons in.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess any buff's a good buff, right? But I think I agree with you, Adam. It's like, how do you even build him? Like, do you want him to be attacking faster? I guess you do because his ult's going to go off faster. But when he's alting, it takes like 3 seconds to go off.
Right.
I think there's going to... I think that when you build him as a Sork and you have demons, I think he's going to be pretty strong. Especially if you like throw in a Ranger for the attack speed buff, I think he's going to be pretty strong.
Yeah,
I mean, he's already decent in the mid game now. Like I've seen Varus's do pretty well mid game.
I like the brand changes. He's felt really bad lately. I've tried to play him a little bit, just like in those mid game elemental packages. He's terrible, and he's always around. I can't tell you how many times late game I'm re-rolling and getting like brand every single time I roll. I don't think anybody's picking him up.
No, that's one of those bad ends. I mean, comparatively, it's him against a soul, right? I mean, who are you gonna rather run for that cost? Right. And you just get the better synergies with a soul. Just flat out, he's just not worth picking up. And he's got to be way more reliable than he is now. And apparently this should do it. I mean, a 3 hex bounce range, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, and I think when it's talking about the missile speed, it just means like it's going to travel between the units faster. So obviously that's actually pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he should be better.
I don't get this Cho'Gath buff, though.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Like, he's already pretty goddamn strong.
Yeah, what the hell
brawlers
are they
and in like void brawlers. So I don't know why they're making him stronger, but
he's like a super high priority pick right now. I feel like, at least
for
me. I mean, he already was, but yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be looking for him every single game.
He went from double S to triple S.
If you're building brawlers, or if you're building brawlers void. Like, obviously you want Cho, and he's already very strong if you throw, like, Morello's on him and stuff like that. So, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Are they trying to force our hand and, like, go Sorcerer Cho? Is that what they want?
It may be. Maybe he's, like, an employee favorite over at Riot.
Maybe, yeah.
So the Draven one... I really like building Imperial Knights, so I'm kind of sad that he's getting a nerf, but man, does he need it. If you give him a Ginsu's and Bloodthirster, I mean, the guy's just unstoppable right now.
Yep.
He's a bad dude. He's a real bad dude. He really doesn't need that flat attack damage. I mean, comparatively, look what, like, Varus's was at. He gets an extra 20.
Yep.
Which I guess makes sense, but I mean, it's more about the spinning axe. He already gets all that that huge burst damage from. He didn't need his autos like smacking people in the head too.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Panth armor, I mean, we've kind of touched on it already, but he needed it. Panth needed a nerf so bad.
Yeah, he's just he just has too many synergies and too much like raw power. So
Yep, and then
fine with it.
he goes like invincible while he's up in the air and just misses all that damage anyway. He's just way too strong.
When he's a Morello's himself, right?
Yes.
Just from that, like he's
Whenever
insane.
he flies down, yeah.
He does not. They shouldn't. Like I just keep saying, just change his skin. He doesn't need to be a dragon too, and all that other stuff. Like,
no, he really didn't need to be a dragon. The skin doesn't make any sense. It's Dragon Slayer anyway. It's just I don't understand it. But he's like anti-dragon.
Yeah, he'd still be strong. Just he can't be that strong. He's super tanky and has like a ton of utility. He's like way better than any other 5 cost.
Yeah, except maybe Kaisa, but I think just with the dragon synergy, he's definitely a cut above.
There's still others. Like I mean, like a 2-star Kale can be really strong with good items. A 2-star Swain can be really good with items. Yeah, you know what I mean.
It's really just the Nivea. It's really just the Nivea that lags behind.
Oh, Misfortune. I don't think I've ever fucking seen a Misfortune.
Yeah, she's not great. She really isn't. So item changes. Locket of the Iron Solari is going up from 7 seconds to 8 seconds duration. Redemption health is 25% to 30%. Repeating crossbow attack speed and crit chance per stack, 20% to 30%. Spear of Shojin mana restoration 15% to 18%. Okay, so that's getting a little buff. And Trap Claw stun duration down from 5 seconds to 4 seconds.
Locket buff I think is fine. I don't think that's gonna matter that much.
No, you don't really see too much Locket anyway.
Yeah,
you
I mean,
probably still won't. Even I don't think that that's
it's
gonna make people
usually
start
only from it's usually only from carousel or if you just have spare items at the end.
Yeah.
So I don't see that being that big of an impact one way or another. I mean, obviously it makes it a little bit better, but I don't think it's enough to like that you're gonna want to build Locket over some of the other items in the game.
Yeah,
no, definitely not.
In Redemption, I mean, I like the buff there too, but I still just don't think it's gonna be a high priority item. I don't like it in this meta at least. Maybe it'll be stronger in the early game or something.
I think it's gonna be very strong in the next patch because in like mid game, Redemption's like one of the best items.
Okay.
Because like you know what I mean, you proc it, you heal your whole team back up. It's very strong in the mid game right now, and I think it's with the threshold being increased, it's going to be even stronger. It's going to be a very strong mid game item. I think.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be.
It seems like
people are going to go out of their way to build it. Like it's going to be good.
Your units definitely survive longer in the mid game. The damage just isn't as high as it is in the late game. So that's what always happens. Is I'll have it late game, and it'll go off and everybody's dead before it even lands.
Yeah.
So it's just it's bad. It's just bad.
I think it's definitely going to be strong in the more the mid game in the next patch.
Yeah, it's just kind of awkward to use still because you don't want it. You put it on somebody tanky. I mean, if they're going down, usually things are hitting the fan at that point. Like they're that low, and you don't want to put it on a carry or like somebody important just to take up an item slot. There really isn't. It almost needed to be something like the actual item where you can just activate it preemptively.
Oh yeah, that's a cool idea.
Like when you actually need it, not
Yeah.
Just an idea. But that repeating crossbow, the crit chance doesn't have. Most people don't. Most of them have like a pretty high base crit chance. Once that bounces to like the second time, they're almost gonna have like 100% crit on whoever that gets to.
Yeah, I haven't. I actually kind of hate this item. I never. I avoid building repeating crossbow at all costs.
Well, yeah,
it's like my number one priority is just not to build repeating crossbow.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting concept. Like, I can see it being strong, but I don't think that people have figured out how to use it.
It's not even. I don't think it's that. There's just way better items to build, and there's no reason to prioritize that over other items.
What does that build with right now? Recurve and mitts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Because you just can build so much other things. So many
Like
other
I rather
things.
have you rather build these gloves or Ginsu's or rapid fire or fucking anything. Like it's just not good. The other items are better, so you're never gonna commit to building that item. I mean, maybe this will make a little bit of a difference, but I don't know. I still think that there's other items that are just stronger, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to
It's too
burn.
it's just
the
too
ability.
dependent on the random nature of the team fights.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know who's gonna die, and you don't know who it's gonna bounce to, and how long they're gonna be alive. It's just not. A team fight. You can play a team fight 100 times over, and I don't know. You might get like one person might win 80 times, and the other person might win 20. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. I just think the other items are stronger. Maybe with the player damage increase, it'll be a better item, along with that 10% buff. But
Mm.
we'll see.
The Shojin buff is interesting. 15% to 18% mana restoration. I already liked Spear Shojin just regularly, and I really like it now.
I feel like you're not even really gonna notice that. I don't know. You ever watch somebody's mana bar fill up when they're hitting with the spear? Like it goes up so fast. Like I'm not even sure in most cases if it's gonna be like even one hit sooner. It might just be like extra mana restoration. I mean, obviously we have to do the math on this, but it seems like to me there's a good chance it might just be like extra mana restoration that isn't actually benefiting you. Just like
I think it might help for Sorks because they attack
how so?
because they attack way slower.
Maybe, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like the amount of mana you were getting anyways was so massive that 3%, maybe if it was like 25%, then I could see like you doing one less auto attack to get your ability off.
Well, that would be insane. At 25% would be way too high.
Yeah. Well, I think it was already high. I feel like 15 to 18
Yeah.
doesn't do a lot for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna play around with it because, like I said, I like it anyway, and I guess we'll see how it is. I could see it being good on. Well, Aesol is not really gonna be as popular anymore, but I could see it being good on him, like even better.
Your girl Kaisa.
Yeah, for sure.
I had one
Fiora.
on her. And, yeah, they just go crazy.
Yep.
Maybe.
And then Trap Claw. I mean, I Trap Claw's not bad. I've built it a few games.
Trap Claw is pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the
Very
nerf.
good on a carry. No, yeah, it's definitely a decent nerf because it can literally just completely disable a carry assassin or whatever when they come in and use a spell. And there's a reason why a lot of people build it on like a Jinx in the Brawlers comp and stuff because it's a very strong item to shut down somebody that's killing your carry.
Yeah, 5 seconds is a long time. 4 seconds is still pretty damn long. Like, think about, I don't know, there's a few people like Akali and stuff like that gets into your back line, just literally just starts one-shotting people. Like, that's the kind of scenarios I guess you could get into if somebody got stunned for 4 seconds, even, literally do nothing in a fight.
Yeah. All right, bug fixes wrapping up. Kaisa's spell tooltip now properly scales with ability power. Coins don't launch as far. Adjusted a few of the drops in Thieves' Gloves. Draven now has the attended attack speed ratio, and players will no longer occasionally receive inexplicable massive amounts of damage during overtime, which I never actually got fucked by that. I see that on the subreddit all the time, and it never happened to me.
Happens to me all the time.
That's got to be miserable.
It's really stupid. It just like it goes to overtime and like it just like makes like the sound that you lost and you both take damage and you lose your win streak and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, that really sucks.
Especially because there's a lot of times where it's going to go overtime and like you're going to win, like you're going to win based on the units you have left and the units they have left and the items, and it just bugs out and you just get a loss. I've had it end like 7-game win streaks before, and it literally makes me want to fucking punch my computer.
Yeah, the game's frustrating enough without it.
Right, so that's good that that's gone.
Yeah, I can understand why the items don't like launch like to you, but why can't the coins just launch to you instead of all over the place?
Yeah, why do you have to go get them? I agree.
Just like auto pick. Yeah, I don't know if it's just like so it makes you feel like you're doing something.
Do you guys always try to get your items and you're clicking on like champs and stuff and you can never actually get to them?
I hate
It
that.
happens to me every game.
That's got to go away, and you have to click like way past everybody.
Yep.
And it's like too. I don't know what do I want to say. Like the area that you can click on that's considered one of your guys is like gigantic. It's like the whole hex. You just can't get to anything on the map.
You got to use like Pythagorean's theorem like just to get the items. It's like it's so not worth it.
Like playing
Yeah.
Pong, trying to bounce your way to the other side over.
Yeah.
This item.
Other than that, I think the Draven note is pretty crazy because if they're saying that Draven now has intended attack speed ratio, that definitely means he was attacking way too fast. So they kind of like masked it by like,
yeah, no wonder.
okay, now they don't say like, oh, he was just like attacking way too fast and shitting on everything. They just said they fixed him. So that makes me think that obviously Draven was attacking way too fast. And if you see in games, there are games where Draven is like, I mean, Ginsu's helps, but like
he literally like 1v5s at the end of the game. Yeah, it's
when
it's
you literally have like 8 units left, and he's like, nope, and just fucking shreds everybody. Like,